My England review is coming out tonight. But let's talk about the quarterfinals, my predictions for the semis, and talk about what actually is going to happen. So, let's start off with the biggest game of them all. It is Spain versus Germany. Jesus. Oh, God. I need to get some cough tablets or cough sweets or whatever. Um, wow, we have just seen probably not the most entertaining game of the tournament, but a very interesting game between the two favourites, the two most formed teams, Germany and Spain, on Friday. And I said Spain were going to go through. Um, I didn't think the Germans were going to, you know, lose like that, but they did. And it's a harsh way to get knocked out, really, isn't it? If you think about it. But yeah, honestly, really good game. Top quality stuff from Spain, who've probably been the best team of this tournament, if I'm going to be honest with you. And I think will win the tournament. Similar to the Italians at the last Euros, I think the best team deserved to win the tournament. But if England get there, are England going to have that knack to go through? We'll talk about England in a little while. But yeah, I thought this game was very weird. There was a lot of fouls. It was not actually that entertaining as much as we saw the late goal. I don't think there was a true winner in that game. And I think just shows how good these two teams are, really. I mean, Germany have been brilliant all tournament, and they needed this for the next World Cup. I knew they weren't going to win the tournament, and I kind of predicted that they were going to have a quarterfinal exit. So I got this one right originally. I can't see, how good this Spanish team was the previous rounds. So this is probably the first time where Spain and Germany haven't looked great. And I've got to say, this quarterfinal has been the worst round, actually, of the tournament, if you think about it. Apart from, actually, England's performance in certain standards and Spain and Germany, I don't think this tournament quarterfinal has been great. So yeah, I could can lie about it, but I didn't really enjoy these quarterfinals. I didn't find any of them interesting. There was no defined favourite apart from probably the Dutch with how good they turned it around, but still they were bad. None of the teams in this semi final got through easily. I think that's expected though when you look at the opponents. I think at the moment, from my point of view, I think the team that's, you know, done best is Spain. And they still were particularly good and better than the Germans in that game. So, yeah, I'm going to have to say good result. Congratulations to the Germans for going this far. But unfortunately, Spain were always the better team on sheet and on performances. And I didn't think the Germans were going to win this tournament. A lot of people did. A lot of people thought Germany were good. And I think ever since that Switzerland game, I don't think they've looked that good. They kind of scraped the barrel against Denmark, but they got through the gears. And again against Spain, you could kind of see the same thing was happening where they would have to go through the gears and they're under pressure. And that normally happens at tournaments. Big teams do go under some great pressure, but it is what it is, really. They're out of this tournament. It's sad to say that they're out. One of the big favourites, the hosting nation, out of the tournament. It always happens sometimes for hosting nations. They sometimes don't just have that magic to get to the semis. And if they had got to the semis, I think they would have got to the final. But this hurdle was the biggest hurdle they had to come over, and it's a harsh reality of what side of the spectrum they've been put on. I mean, I think there has to be a rethink of how many teams there are in this tournament. Either take it down to 16 or 24. I've liked the 26, yeah, 26, 16 or 32 now for Europe, because I think it is starting to get an issue where you've got third place teams. Some first place teams are going to be on the easy end of the spectrum compared to the harder end of the spectrum, as we've seen. I mean, that right hand side shouldn't be all in one section. That should be mixed up in the other section. And I don't know why that isn't a thing. And I do think in future reference, I do feel like maybe like in the FA Cup, they should draw it live after the final game. I think that would be a much better way of doing it. So you have 16 balls put into a draw. You don't know who you're going against until the tournament is ended its group stage around 16, or do it the day after. It'd be quite a nice different feeling. So every team doesn't know their opponent. It doesn't give advantage for teams that have qualified to the round 16 early. And it's just fair. I think it's the best way of doing it. And I do think that's why a lot of the big teams have exited. We had Germany exit from that end. We've had Italy exit from the other end already. We've had Portugal, Belgium. You know, I'm shocked how many big teams are on that end of the spectrum compared to our end of the spectrum. But anyway, that is it. Let's move on to the next game. Portugal-France, that ended in penalties. Again for Portugal. Portugal-France, very much the game to watch. I think it was always going to go this way. Portugal were always going to lose against France. There was no question of a doubt that France had learned from the Euros 2020 on penalties. I think that element is there. But France still very similar to England, you know, just scamming their way through this tournament. We'll get on to England properly next. But I think, honestly, weren't entertaining a game again, really. If you think about it, none of the teams have really turned up. I mean, Portugal was semi-decent against Slovenia, and to just scrape the barrel again, France, who I think would have beaten this team if they were playing good football 3-0 in normal time, this French team. But we've got to look at the facts, and it's fair to say both weren't great. You know, who's meeting Spain now in this semi-final, and we now know it's the French, are going to have a really bad day. I can't see France getting past Spain, actually. I think it will be a Spain-England final. That's my prediction. And I think Spain will win the whole tournament. But I cannot, for me, I can't skip what we have just seen. That performance there is really bad. It's got to change. It's got to really change for the French now. They've got to go to that next gear. The same for the England team, I think, as well. But I don't know. I really, really don't know what else you really can say. I mean, the only positive you can really take from that game is France have found a way again. And, for France, I think that Belgian game wasn't great, but they were a bit better in that Portugal game. I think the harshness of the tournament, and a lot of people are like, how have England got this far? And it's just quality. It is just general quality. I don't think the managers have been great, and Deschamps is usually a good manager, but he hasn't shown that quality all tournament. And, for me, I think certain things are, certain on, how far a team wants to go, but you know, it's an opportunity and it's a great chance to go forwards in terms of um, going further in this competition. The only thing I think the French would need to work on now is probably their defence. I think at certain points there was defensive errors and just high press. I don't think England had done it that well. I think the French have just done it a little bit better than France, but who knows? Who actually knows? This tournament is absolutely crazy. We're going to get on to England now because I didn't really want to talk about that game as much because it wasn't a great game, really, between Romania. Apologies to Romania, Portugal, and France. But we have to do all the games in this review. So let's move on to England versus Switzerland. Honest thoughts coming your way. Honest thoughts. Good first half. Very bad second half. We only came into it in the last, I think, 25 minutes. Or not 25 minutes. Last probably 13 minutes of the second half. So, overall, that's our best game of the tournament because we've had more activity. If you actually look at the statistics and look at how the game is, it was very, very close, actually. A lot of people don't know that. And it was actually closer than what we thought. And it could go one way or the other. But the Swiss were poor at penalties. And that's the big factor. We deserved to win because we were the better team. There was no question of that. All these Swiss and all these people, getting angry. Oh, England didn't use the high press enough. They did it for 45 minutes. Come on, guys. We've not done that all tournament. I think overall the performance was good. I think we switched off a bit in the second half and that was understandable. But we've got to the semis. This is an amazing achievement. And, for how we've been playing in this tournament, we're in the semis. We've won the last two games. They've not been great games. They've not been amazing. But we've had some really good moments. If you're going to be honest with me, moments have won this tournament, and the confidence is growing now. And with the game against the Dutch, we'll talk about that game in more detail in my England review that's going to come out tomorrow. This has to come out before because the quarterfinals begins tonight as the time of recording. But nah, I can't say we're going to lose against the Dutch. I can't see it. The Dutch have not been good all tournament. If you're going to be honest, game against Poland, they were good because Poland didn't have the quality. France, they should have done something there. They didn't. They were bad. They didn't take any shots. They just held back. The Austria game, they absolutely got whipped in the arse. And if I'm going to be honest with you, if they were to play the Austrians, they would have lost again. But Austria got knocked out by Turkey, so they got saved by that. And the game against, Romania, that was their best game. But that's Romania. Let's be honest. The two good games they've had were against opponents they should be beating. Same with us. We can't say anything as the England fans because we have easier opponents, I think, than they have, but in certain elements. But we've struggled more, and that's a fine thing. That's a fine thing. It doesn't have to be a weakness. It's actually quite a strength because now we're not favourites. We're not favourites going into the semi-final, and that's a really powerful weapon to have going into semi-finals. Being the underdog, being the team that's not being watched. It's happened twice now. But it's the same with the Dutch. I think the Dutch have been a team that's been kind of overlooked, and to see them in a semi-final, they want to repeat the same success of '88, and both teams are in a similar boat, England and Netherlands. We'll talk about that in the review a little bit more, and that's an annoying factor because you look at how important the game's going to be. But yeah, we're talking about the Dutch game first because I'm actually going to do the England game separately on the same review. Not on the same review. So I'll do the England game separately because that's going to be my England review. I don't want to give away too much now, but yeah, I can't really say the Dutch were great, but they had quality. And whatever you say, all the teams who've got to this semi-finals haven't been great at all. I mean, Spain, lucky. France, technique. England, technique. Netherlands, lucky. That's the honest answers there. None of the teams have got through easily. But the interesting, I think, scenario now is who gets to this final on Sunday. And for me, it's very close between England and the Netherlands, but I do think Spain. I don't think France is going to do it again. I'll be shocked if France get through this time because of the quality that Spain have had. Spain should be getting to this final. They've been the best team of this tournament. They should be winning this whole thing. No harshness to England, no harshness to the Dutch, no harshness to the French, but there's a clear favourite here. And I think the Dutch have also been in that boat early on. I said it in the first round, they were pretty good. And I said maybe they're my third favourites. I just didn't put them up there as top two. It was always the Germans and the Spanish. But I think now we're down to a final four. It's pretty clear how this is going to go now. So, I'm excited. I think it's great. I predicted what I think is going to happen. Spain, England are going to go through. And I'm going to actually predict the final. And I'm going to predict we are going to have a Spain-England penalty shootout. I think England are going to defend off, not do anything in the first 45 minutes. Second half, they're going to push forwards. And then it'll go to penalties. And we will have a similar... I think it won't be as good as the World Cup final, but we will have the same fate of that final. And I do think England will go and maybe nick it. So there you go. That's a final, and it might change. It will definitely change if Spain and England are not in the final. It'll have to change because it'll be France, Netherlands. But comment down below who you actually think is going to get to the final and who do you want to get to the final. So who do you think is going to get to the final? Go with your brain, and then with your heart, what do you want? Because for me, I think Spain-England is my final, or France-England. I don't think the Dutch have deserved it enough over England. That sounds mad, but who knows? This has been a very quick review. I'm going to get straight into the next review. I'm going to upload the England review later tonight, maybe early tomorrow morning. But yeah, that's it. This is going to be uploaded as quick as possible after I've done the England review. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video.